Coming to our work day. As you see, we're mowing the yard, so April Fools. So Edward's doing it, right? Well, yeah. My sister said I should tell everybody, nope, you're really here to help mow the grass and trim the trees. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. The first of what I hope to be several Cyber Saturdays, or whatever we end up calling them. But we're just going to dive right in, okay? So let's get started with people, as you probably know, are spending more and more time online. I don't know if we understand how much time we actually are spending online. The amount of money and effort and resources that companies put in to their online presence and what they do is enormous. We're going to talk about it, but it's also incredibly effective. And even those of us who think we're not susceptible, we're totally susceptible, right? So we might think, oh, well, I'm not the problem, other people are. Well, I'm the problem, right? So this is something that we really need to take seriously. Online activity is incredibly dangerous, and it's not just dangerous in the ways that we might typically think. Coming from a church and a church school, we might think pornography. That's the big online scary thing. And yeah, that's no good. It's really bad. There's a lot of things on there that are terrible. And we're going to talk about a lot of those today. Hacking, identity theft, propaganda, lies, pornography, self-deception, cults, all these things propagate online. And we haven't even gotten into some of the really, really terrible things. It's really so bad, and some of the things we're going to talk about here are so bad. We're one of the few countries that allow truly unfettered access online. I think that's probably a good thing. I think putting responsibility in the hands of the parents is the right answer. But most countries don't allow their kids online unfettered, right? There are actual laws, and parents, in the same way we have laws that prevent parents from giving kids cigarettes or giving kids alcohol, a lot of countries have laws preventing kids or parents from giving kids access to social media. And what we're going to talk about today primarily is social media. Social media is a terrible, terrible thing we're going to cover today for everybody, really. But for kids, it's really bad. I think at some point in the not too distant future, we're going to look at social media the same way we look at alcohol and smoking. Some people do it, it's fine. It's not appropriate for kids, and maybe it's not even appropriate for adults, right? I think we're going to view social media that way in the not too distant future. I hope that happens sooner rather than later. So, social media is the new battleground. That's where everything happens. Ideas are spread, people are recruited into all sorts of things, and it could be great, but oftentimes it's not. So what exactly is social media? Well, the defining characteristic of social media that we're going to cover is likes, shares, and comments. Anything that lets you do those three things, we're counting as social media. So that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, Reddit, Tumblr, LinkedIn, YouTube, WhatsApp, TikTok, Telegram, WeChat, and probably 8,000 more, right? Liking, commenting, and sharing. That's the thing. That's what you want to look out for, right? Because what the science is going to tell us is it's the likes, the comments, and the shares that are destroying people's minds, especially kids. Especially kids. See, when you're young, you go hang out with your friends, it's real easy to get your feelings hurt. Kids, have thin skin. Online, the likes, the comments, and the shares are insults, and they're attaboys, and that's how they see them. They're not quite mature enough really to understand that that's just a silly thing not to be worried about. For kids, that is very much everything to be worried about. So kids are using social media more than ever. So Common Sense Media, which I can't spell, found that overall screen time amongst teenagers has increased by 17%. So what that means is that 5 hours and 30 minutes a day 12-year-olds roughly are spending on their devices. That's 5.5 hours, right? I mean, if you consider that these are school-age kids, they can't be on their device the whole day at school, so we'll give them an hour at school, and I mean, if it's more than that, I'm going to be surprised, and then they have to sleep, so really, if they're not at school being actively engaged with, and then they're not sleeping, a lot of kids are just on their phones. 94% of all people in the world are accessing social media. 94% of all people who access the internet are using social media. Adults over 35 who use apps like TikTok and Snapchat are more likely to have mental health issues, right? They get depressed, they get sad, they feel hopeless. And make no mistake about it, mental health, when it comes to your kids, is absolutely contagious. Notice I did not say hereditary, it's contagious. When your 8-year-old sees you depressed, they too will be depressed. They empathize so much, they don't even know they're doing it. So if you're at home looking at Snapchat, TikTok, and you get frustrated because of politics, or you get sad because somebody's living a life that you want, your kids are gonna pick up on that, and there's just no two ways about it. Right? So social media is a problem, not just for kids, but for adults too. So what are the risks? We're going to cover some, and there's some links in the link I sent you. There, I linked to some sources here of several studies that this that we're talking about is not isolated to kids, adults too. But social media makes people feel terrible. It does not make people feel connected. It doesn't. It makes people feel terrible. Like the same is true of alcohol. Alcohol doesn't make you have a good time. In fact, you often will have a terrible time if you drink too much alcohol, right? So there's real issues with social media and not allowing people to be connected. See, social media has done to the relationship what pornography has done to sex. It fakes it all and accentuates all the wrong parts of it. Right? Instead of us coming together and actually connecting as human beings and interacting with one another, that's not what happens on social media most of the time. Most of the time what happens is people compare themselves to one another. They say, oh, their kid is so much better than mine or so much worse than mine. Oh, they just got a new car or they just got a new house and what's wrong with me and why did they get a raise? It accentuates all the wrong parts of the human interaction and the human experience. A lot of adults can work around that. They're used to it, especially those of us who didn't grow up with social media. We can work around that, but kids cannot. So according to Columbia University, here's the exact quote. Growing research finds that the more time spent on social media, and this is for anybody, the more likely that person will experience mental health symptoms like anxiety, isolation, and hopelessness. According to one recent study, high levels of social media use over the span of 4 years was associated with increased depression among middle and high school youths. Like that is the absolute measurement. If you want your kids to feel terrible, let them on social media. Now, these studies are missing something that I think goes overlooked, and that is parents think, okay, well, I'm going to let my kids on social media, I'm going to give them a phone, and I'm going to look at it. I'm going to see what are they looking at. But see, this doesn't say they bump into terrible things that makes them feel bad. This makes them feel bad. So what am I saying? I'm saying it's not the pornography, it's not the predators, though they're out there too. The thing itself is bad, right? If you want your kids to feel terrible, give them Snapchat, give them TikTok, give them those things and just let them watch it. They're going to feel awful. Best case scenario, they're going to feel awful. Worst case scenario, they get full on depressed. It's the like, the share, and the comments that make social media so addictive. We have brain scans that hitting that like button. Has anybody ever been to a casino? Y'all ever been to casinos? You ever seen those people at the what are they called, slot machines? So, well, now they do this, right? And people sit there for hours and just hit the same button over and over and over and over, pull the thing over and over and over and over again. The part of the brain that's activated when people do that, I mean, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry, just sitting there and getting people to press the same button over and over again. It's the exact same part of the brain that's being affected when people hit that like, the share, and the comment on social media. It's the exact same one. That's why that's what we want to focus on. When your kids bring an app you've never heard of, you've never seen, the short answer is look at it. Can they like? Can they share? And can they comment? If they can, my world says, don't let them touch it. That's like giving them whiskey. And if you think about it, see, when I was young, I was born in 1976, it wasn't considered strange for a 5-year-old to drink grandpa's beer. That was considered just fine. When my grandpa was young, it was considered normal for kids to get drunk. to smoke cigarettes, to work in meat factories, right? Anytime a new technology hits society, we don't know how to treat it. And I think it takes a few years. Social media as we know it has only existed for about 11 years. Seems like it's been with us forever. It's only been about 11 years, really. Social media as we know it now has only been around for 11 years. And you know what happened 11 years ago? Suicide rate among kids has skyrocketed. Not 10%, which would be a massive increase. I mean, imagine a 10% pay raise. You'd be like, yes. Imagine a 50% pay raise. Yes. Imagine a 600% pay raise, right? That's crazy. 600% increase in kids committing suicide. This could be linked directly to them accessing social media. $50 billion is what social media spends in research and development. Who knows about the big tobacco story, right? Big tobacco knew that tobacco was addictive and nicotine was addictive. They knew that the research they put into it was to try to make people more addicted. They knew it, they did it for 75 years, right? And they went off and they got this huge settlement. Does anybody know what? It wasn't very long ago. There's a movie about it with Russell Crowe. Tobacco knew what they were doing. Way back in the 50s, they figured out, oh, tobacco has nicotine. Nicotine's highly addictive. Let's keep this secret, and let's maximize that. Let's really push that button, and let's make a bunch of people addicted to cigarettes. And smoking was the leading cause of death in America for, what, 25 years or something? Heart attacks associated with smoking. Industry has a long history of knowing that they are hurting you, of knowing they're hurting your kids, and putting it out there anyway. Saying, hey, I'm watching my kids, they're not doing any sex stuff, they're not doing any bad words, it doesn't matter. It does matter, that stuff makes it even worse, but social media at its best is like smoking cigarettes. And if you let your kids smoke one cigarette a day, I think people now would call that irresponsible. If I was to give Leo one shot a day, just one shot of whiskey at 8 o'clock at night, is it gonna kill him? Nope. Is it gonna give him liver cancer? Nope. Any long-term effects? Psychologically, right? That's not a good thing to do. Even if you can't point to one specific way that it harms him, it's terribly irresponsible. I'm of the mindset that social media and kids don't mix at all. I don't think they should mix at all. I don't think kids should have any access to social media, full stop. But that's really, really hard. It's really, really hard. So, what we're going to talk about, not only kids on social media, we're going to talk about your devices. So, what I'm hoping to do, more than anything, is drill into your minds that social media, even if you're monitoring it, even if you know who your kids are talking to, even if they're not chatting, social media, likes, shares, and comments are terrible. They're terrible for your kids. These industries know it. We were just talking about artificial intelligence. They are going to get better and better and better at tickling that part of their brain to make them stay on there longer and longer and longer. It ruins their inhibitions. They get so excited about getting a like, getting a share, seeing other people that they emulate things they never would have done on their own. They do things they never would have done on their own. And even if they don't do them, they feel them, which is the second part I want you to take home today. Even if you watch your kids and you say, hey, they're not doing anything terrible, there's no two ways about it. They feel terrible. That social media makes them feel terrible. It's not good. It's really, really not good. So we're going to talk about managing your device, and then we're going to talk about how we make sure that your kids don't run out there and install social media on their own devices, right? We have this idea, I think especially if you're my generation, you might look at social media and phones and think, oh, it's like cartoons. When I was really young, in the 70s and early 80s, I'd sit there and watch cartoons on the big console TV where you had the antennas and stuff, and my grandfather would say, that's going to rot your brain. And he was actually a little bit right. But I think people my age have a tendency to say, well, this is like cartoons. They're mostly harmless. This is not like cartoons. This is not like cartoons. This is not like watching TV when you're a kid. This isn't even like video games. Kids in video games are probably mostly just fine. I mean, there's too much is too much. but it's the likes, the shares, and the comments. It's terrible. It's terrible. It simulates human interaction, right? It makes people think, oh, so and so likes me. How come so and so didn't like this? And kids, kids, they go off, and adults do it too, right? That's the unspoken part, is it happens. The research is clear. It makes adults feel terrible. It makes kids feel even more terrible. So, what we want to be able to do is monitor your own devices. That's really, really important. But the essence of today really is to monitor your kids' devices and to understand the threat. We called this Cyber Saturday. And in my world, anything that happens online is in the cyber war space. That's where it's at. Talking about social media and saying don't let your kids on it doesn't sound particularly technical until you have a 14-year-old who wants to put social media on their phone and you need to catch it. Right? These kids are clever. These social media companies are clever, right? They want your kids on their platform, full stop. You don't want them on there, they want them on there, I promise you. Right? So there is a battle going on. Kids want on because all their friends have it. Social media wants it on because that's another client for them. And you're the only person in that mix who does not want them on social media. So there is absolutely a technical aspect to this. So the takeaway, in my opinion, is don't let your kids on social media. If you do, if they've already gone and you just don't have the heart to take it from them, limit their time significantly. And with these apps we're going to talk about a little later, you can actually set screen time. You can set app time where you can say, okay, you can have, TikTok or whatever, Twitter, whatever app it is. I think that's terrible. I think that's like giving them one shot of whiskey a day. But if that's the route you choose to go, fine, I want to teach you how to do it, right? Because it is better. One shot a day is better than 8 shots a day, right? Like there's just no two ways about it. I hope we get to a point to where an hour of social media a day is considered like a shot a day. Like you would never, that's unthinkable, right? I hope y'all would ostracize me if I was giving Leo a shot a day, right? I think you would. That's how I want to treat social media. That's how I want you to view it. It's like smoking. It's like alcohol. It does not deliver what it says it's going to deliver. It does not connect you to anybody. It doesn't make you feel any better. The research is clear. It is terrible for you. It's terrible for you. So in China, these social media apps for kids are completely either blocked, they're absolutely limited by how often kids can use them and for how long, and the content is highly regulated. So they can't watch people dance silly dances. Hey, they don't get to do that. They get to watch math videos, science videos, and that kind of a thing. Other countries that don't have a constitution like us, they just lock it down. They saw how bad this is for kids years ago, and they just said, no way. We don't have that. We put the responsibility in the hands of the parents. And so what I hope to do today is, number one, to really put that fear into you of social media. Hackers are terrible. Predators are terrible. Those are all terrible things, and we should absolutely protect our kids from them. Social media is one that I think is the most dangerous, because even in its best case, it's bad for your kids. Right? On its best day, it's bad for your kids. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about y'all's devices, how to work on y'all's devices, and how to identify if y'all's devices have been compromised. Then after that, we're going to end on how to manage your kids' devices. And after we do the kids' devices, we have Brandon and Joel here and myself. The idea, don't leave if you don't understand how to do these things. If you know, go have a great day. But if you don't know how to do these things, we have Brandon, we have Joel, and myself. We're here to get you squared away. Set up your kids' account, set up the family link, set up these things, okay? So I think the talks will be narrow. I want to leave time, that way people can ask questions. I don't want to just talk at you and then now go about your way. I want to arm you to do these things, all right? So let's take about 10 or 15 minutes, get some coffee, and we'll move on to the next one. We'll talk about y'all's devices, all right? Thank you.
still you're calling me. Yeah, when faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In every season, you keep repeating promises to me. Whoa, and there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. And my mind says I'm not good enough. God, you're enough for me. Hey, I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding
Can y'all hear me? Yeah, great. All right, so what we're going to do, we had a couple of families come in a little late, so we're going to do a quick recap real quick. Because the main takeaway, social media is terrible for your kids. It is awful. Right? This isn't like it's a little bit bad. It is awful. So, for those who got to hear me the last time, what were the 3 things that define social media? Do you remember? Likes, comments, and shares. Likes, comments, and shares. Those right there are the poison. Video games aren't great, whatever. Cartoons are cartoons, whatever. Likes, comments, and shares. That destroys adults too, but destroys kids. Suicide, absolute maximum it's ever been by a long shot. Can you imagine? Now, hopefully you've never experienced this, but can you imagine how terrible a child must feel to want to commit suicide? A 14-year-old, an 11-year-old? I mean, oh my goodness, right? Social media has a huge role in that, and we know it. We know it. We know it so much that Congress called Facebook and TikTok and these other places before them. I'm sure you see it on the news, right? All of a sudden, social media is back in front of Congress, back in front of. The science is clear. It's clear. It's absolutely clear. Social media is terrible for your kids, even if you're monitoring it, even if you're looking at it, even if they're not doing any of that crazy sex stuff that we're worried about, even if they're just talking to their friends from church. It's terrible. There's other ways that they can communicate with their friends, right? Kids don't have to communicate with likes, shares, or comments. They can communicate by text. Text is not social media, right? That's a text. That's us talking. Likes, shares, comments. That's the problem. It's a huge problem. And the science is absolutely clear. It's terrible for adults. It makes adults feel terrible. It makes kids feel terrible, right? It makes them feel terrible. That's the best you can say about it, is that your kids, when they hop on social media, are going to feel terrible. They're going to feel helpless. They're going to feel hopeless, and they're going to feel alone. That's how they're going to feel. So that's the big takeaway. Don't let your kids on social media. The link that's up here, I linked to several studies, several pieces of research from different universities. This is absolutely true, right? This isn't crazy Phil. This is the sane part of me, right? This is the part of me you want to listen to. So one of the ways you can protect your kids, and I didn't get to it, as I ended up scrolling right past it, is the idea of a digital detox. Has anybody here heard of digital detoxes before? Yeah, that's becoming a thing. People are realizing how important stepping away from social media is becoming. It's really, really important. So a digital detox, for those who may not know, is to say, okay, from this time, let's say 7 p.m. till tomorrow morning, no social media or no phones, right? Or let's say Sunday, no social media at all, right? So if let's say you have a 14-year-old and they're good kids. You say, oh, sure, you can have your social media, here you go. And you've done it for a few years. And now you see these studies and you say, well, I don't know about that anymore. It's hard to take it away. You've set a standard with them. So one thing you can do is detox. You can say, okay, well, you can keep it because you've been okay, but we're going to limit your time, right? From 7 p.m. on, or whatever's appropriate for your family, you don't get it. 1 day a week, you don't get it. And then there's this new idea that's coming around, is families as a whole will take a month off from social media together. So mom, dad, siblings, everybody. No social media for 30 days. It's called a digital detox. Unplug for a little while. Let the noise go. Don't be a part of it. So digital detox is really, really important. Another way to protect your kids from social media, give them more time with kids face-to-face. I feel like if you're here, we probably grew up in a similar fashion where we actually played with the other kids. We actually went outside, drank from water hoses, that kind of thing. A lot of kids today, they don't do that anymore. But that is super important. So 2 ways to help your kids that have nothing to do with technology directly is a digital detox. Just turn the phone off for however long every day, several hours in a row. Make them feel not having social media for a while, right? Let them feel that, to get off of it and to realize that I don't need it. So digital detox is a big one, and more time with kids playing with each other, like people have since the creation, right? So those are two big ways. And then we're going to talk about how to lock down your kids' phones a little bit later, and we have some guys here that will help you set that up. But what we're going to talk about now is your own devices, right? So we have to get our own house in order. We have to manage our own device before we can move over to managing our kids' device. The last thing you want to do is put the software on your phone to manage your kid's device, and you have a hacker on there. It says, oh, I didn't know this person had a child. Now I have full access to the kid's phone too. So let's get your phone clean, all right? Let's get your phone squared away, your computer squared away. All right, so let's talk about what the biggest threats are. So this is something of a value judgment. These are the biggest threats that I see for regular people who are not in my line of work, and you're not online doing all kinds of crazy things. Open Wi-Fi. People connect to open Wi-Fi. They want that free Wi-Fi connection, so they hop on open Wi-Fi. It might be fine, but open Wi-Fi is a very easy way for attackers to steal your information or maybe even throw some malware on your machine. All right, so open Wi-Fi, avoid it if you can. If you can't avoid it, try to set up a VPN. If you don't have one, we can talk about that in a little while. Games. People hop on their phone, they're sitting in a long drive, they're sitting in a meeting that they don't like, whatever. They say, let me find a game. And they hop on the Play Store and they look around and they install some seedy game, all right? Some game, whatever. They can install malware on your machine, or they can do other things. But I think the biggest one is phishing attacks. Anybody know what a phishing attack is? Anybody ever heard of that before? Put some bait out there for you. That's exactly right. So what people will do is they'll send you emails. I'm sure you've seen spam emails, scam emails. Well, they'll put links in there, and they want you to click on them, and you might think they're harmless. Sometimes nothing will happen at all. You'll click on them, and you'll say, hey, that didn't even work. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. It put something on your phone, right? It put something on your laptop. If you met the requirements of that particular piece of code, it'll install, and you may not even know it. So what will happen if they put things on your device? Well, all sorts of things. All sorts of things can happen. The most common one, and this will be, have you ever been hacked? Is your phone hacked right now? The most common one is identity theft. Has anybody here had a few $100 taken from their account before? Like, where'd that come from? Yeah. Has that ever happened to you more than once in a year? Your phone's gotten hacked. See, let me explain to you how these hacks work. We have this idea that these identity theft hackers are just one or two nerdy guys sitting in their basement hacking a phone. That's not what it is. You have a call center, often in China, sometimes the Philippines, China, Russia, the Philippines, Eastern Europe, all over the world. Anywhere you can hire smart people for a few bucks, they set up call centers, and they'll have 1,000 people in there. And each of those 1,000 people, they have customized software that manage malware. So what does that mean? It means they put all this stuff out on the internet, and they infect your phone, my phone, his phone, their phone, and all these things call back, and they have this big thing sitting there where some guy or girl comes in just like at a call center, they're making $20 an hour, sit down in front of their computer and say, oh, click, when's the last time somebody took money out of Phil's account? Oh, that was 8 months ago. Sure, $300 out of Phil's account. When's the last time somebody took money out of Joel's account? Oh, that was 2 months ago. We'll let that one sit. What they do is they install it on your phones, they watch your bank accounts, and then they pull money out at a rate fast enough to make money, but slow enough so you don't get too suspicious. You call the bank, they refund your money, carry on with your life, you don't think much of it. That happens a lot. It happens a lot. They sit there and just watch it. Okay, so I remember I talked to somebody once and I told them that, and I said, well, you got hacked 3 times, or identity theft 3 times in a year. We need to wipe your phone. She said, no, I just called the bank and they refund me. Somebody has your phone. You realize that, right? But I don't care. You should care, because it's not just your bank account. They have your phone, which means they have your passwords. They can get into your email. So what's another way to tell if you've been hacked? Well, is your email sending emails to people without your permission? Happens a lot. Happens a whole lot. Has somebody opened a credit card in your name? Happens a lot. Happens a whole lot. These attacks are incredibly sophisticated. If you have reason to believe that your phone has been hacked, you need to clean it out. That's super important. Super important. Convenience is our enemy here, right? Convenience is our enemy. The convenience is on the side of the attacker. They have good reason to design software to attack millions of people at once, and it is what they do. And like I said, they have data centers, literally just cubicle farms of hackers that sit there and say, okay, we got Roger's phone now. Great, let's wait and let's wait till he logs into his bank account. Oh, now we got his bank account. And they literally manage tens of thousands, if not millions of victims that way. And then they'll, if you have 10,000 victims, and I can milk each one of them for $800 a year, now we're talking about some real money. And 10,000 victims is nothing. That's nothing. That's pea-sized. So, what I'm trying to drive home to you is that the attacks on your phones, the attacks on your computers are very, very, very sophisticated, right? Very sophisticated. If you start managing your kids' phones, well, somebody who has your phone now has your kids' phones. This is really important because you think you can make money stealing $800 from me or $1,000 from me, even 2,000, whatever. Wait till they can start taking pictures of your kids when they're not looking, because that's another thing they can do. Once I got your phone, I got you. I got your camera, I got your microphone, I got your key presses, I got your passwords, I got your email, I got it all, right? Kick them out. Kick them out. Somebody's sleeping in your living room. Don't let them stay. Kick them out, even if they're nice. They don't belong there. Kick them out, right? So, open Wi-Fi's, phishing attacks. Don't click on random links. Don't do that. Right now, Christina's in there with your kids. If you have kids over there, she's got these coloring pages that teaches them the basics of cybersecurity. Don't talk to strangers, don't click on random links, don't download things, that kind of thing. And when they bring these pages home, look at them. These are really, really important. Joel runs a team, and his job is to do cyber for this huge organization. And I bet you if you had a conversation with him, he'd say the number one enemy is one of his own employees, not because they're disgruntled, but because they do something silly, right? The people who bring these things into an organization, they often don't know they're doing it, right? So, what we're going to talk about next is how you clean your phone and how you keep it clean. So, I'm sure we've all heard of antivirus software, especially if you ran desktops not long ago. Well, there's antivirus and anti-malware software for your phones. And if you've clicked on the link, if you come down to software to help. So Apple and Android, those are the two main phone types we have these days. Malware is different on each one. So if you have an Apple, we need to go down one path. If you have an Android, you need to go down another path. If you want to know, as much as it hurts me to say this, I think Apple is probably a bit more secure. I don't like Apple, but I think they're more secure, excuse me. But there are several apps for both Apple and Android, all right? And what I included here was 3 links. All these links work on both. They have an Apple version or a Mac version. All of them cost about $15 per year per device. So if you have, let's say, 2 devices, $30 per year. Do the math from there. So a little bit more than $1 a month to run full versions of this software. If we consider that the one person I'm talking about was hacked for, $1,200 a year and had to go through the hassle of calling their bank and fighting for it to come back and that kind of a thing, to me, $15 a year is pennies. That's absolutely worth it. But that's just my opinion. So there's 3 of them here. There's Bitdefender, there's Norton, and there's McAfee. When push comes to shove, they all do the same thing, right? We are comparing Ford to Chevy to Dodge. People have their preferences. Maybe they're a little bit different. I'm a Bitdefender. I run Bitdefender. Norton is absolutely fine. McAfee's absolutely fine, okay? You can click on these links. You can go there. You can download these. I'll let you run a free version for a while, and you can clean your phone out. When I did Bitdefender, recently, I just redid a subscription a few weeks ago, and I noticed that a new feature, maybe it's been there and I just hadn't looked, but it said, check the dark web for any of your personal information. I said, oh, sure, let's see what you have to say. Whammo! And it was like 40 spots that claim they have my username and password. right? And so I go look at them, and I don't know if I buy it or not, you know. But either way, there's 40 of them. There's some there that were for sure. I don't buy all of them, but some of them were for sure. Like, oh yeah, I remember that. And now this one, Bitdefender listed them all the way back to like 2011. Like, you know, this username and password for this site from 2011. I said, oh yeah, well, I don't have that anymore. I've changed the password since then, that kind of thing. So these have a lot of features in there. We're not going to get into all of them. You could spend a whole day talking about how to use these. What I would urge you to do, and the reason I put these up here and did these three is because they have a lot of videos, a lot of documentation that will teach you how to use them. You also have 3 guys here who are happy to teach you how to use these as well. All right, so if you see these and you decide you want to do it, don't be intimidated. You can hit me up, you can hit up Joel, Brandon, even not today. If you want to do it next week or whatever, shoot us a text, catch us at church. We'll make time for you. I want you to be armed to defend yourself. All right, so that's your devices. You can't sleep on your own device, right? If you're going to manage your kid's device. All 3 of these are for both. Bitdefender, Norton, and McAfee. And I can shoot you some links if you want to check those out. All of them have a free version that you can try so you can see which one works best for you. And a lot like, remember I compared them to Ford, Chevy, and Dodge. People have a personal preference. So if you don't know, there's no reason you can't try them all. Run one for a month. It doesn't work for whatever reason, turn that off, turn on another one, and see which one of them just makes most sense for you and try it, all right? Because running any of these is going to help you out. And the first thing that it's going to want to do is scan your entire phone. It's going to ask you for access to everything. Has anybody here heard of a company called Kaspersky? Have y'all? Yeah, I know y'all have. So who is Kaspersky? It's Russia. Kaspersky, if you look them up, what they're going to say is they're a software, or they're a cybersecurity company, and they make really good antivirus applications. You can get them for your phone. Yes, they are very good. All of your data is going back to Russia, all of it. China makes their own. All your data is going back to China, all of it. I mention this because when you install these things, it's going to ask for all access. All access. It needs to see every part of your phone. Same as when you install this stuff for your kids, it needs to see all of your phone. I recommended these 3 because I think these 3 companies are as reputable as you can be, right? Nobody's perfect, but they're as reputable as you can be. Yeah, they're going to turn you over to the FBI if you sell drugs. So don't sell drugs. So if you're trying to hide from the police, these aren't your people. But that's not what we're doing here, right? And what we're doing here is we're trying to protect ourselves from the wolves. And so what I would like to do is look at these 3, like you to do is look at these 3, understand that they're going to ask for full access to your entire phone. Don't be scared. That's what they need in order to do what they do, all right? Don't go out there and say, hey, I found Kaspersky or any number of other ones that are cheaper. They are out there, and they are cheaper, and they are bad themselves, right? They are the enemy. These guys, these are the allies. There are some that are a little bit cheaper. I think Kaspersky might be a few dollars cheaper. To me, $15 a year for a device is very affordable. And if not, hit me up. Maybe we can figure something out. But don't use one of the cheaper ones. Stick to these guys because hackers are very sophisticated. They will put out their own antivirus. It's very common, right? So I recommended these 3. And if you're going to use one, I hope you do. Stick to one of these 3. There are other reputable ones. These aren't the only ones. But this is where I would start for you all. All right? Anybody have any questions? I know I hit you with a lot there. Y'all feel okay with this? Y'all feel armed?
How does this differ than what, say, the iPhone has its own lock and all of that?
So they're different. So So the way it works is the game is like, I want you to think of malware and hacking like an arms race, like a Cold War, and it's always going on. On one hand, you have hackers that are building tools. And their job is to send these tools out into the wild and hope you catch them. That's exactly what they're doing, right? They have different ways of doing that. Well, on the quote-unquote good guys side, what they're doing is they're trying to catch those things as early as possible, and they build, generally, this is how it works, they build what's called a signature, right? So this is what this malware looks like. This is what that malware looks like. This is what that looks like. and they correlate them together into one central location. Norton, Bitdefender, McAfee, that's what they focus on. Apple is I would say, particularly good at it, but I don't think they're better than these guys. So how are they different? I wouldn't say they're different in principle, but I would say they are more effective in execution. Does that make sense? So I do think Apple, just a naked Apple, I think is more secure than a naked Android. That being said, a naked Android is okay if you manage your phone well. Right? If you're not installing random things and you're not clicking on random things, your Android is probably just fine. Same with your Apple. But these guys are really sophisticated.
So in that vein too, Bill, the phishing attacks, have they used like news and things like that?
Sure.
You know, 'cause there's a lot of stuff they throw. I see a lot of bait out there news-wise, and you're like, I don't really know who that is. You know?
Right.
They have the entity that it is, and then sometimes it'll have another, you know, it's on a different platform.
That's right.
Whatever news feed.
Sure.
So they
Yeah. So the goal is oftentimes, the goal is to, this isn't the only way, but oftentimes the goal is to just get you to click a link, any link. So they're real common in the dark corners of the internet and the pornography world. That is just full of all this terribleness, right? Free streaming, right? So I want to watch the pay-per-view fight for free, and I know this great site. Yeah, it's not free, right? They're installing things on your device, right? That is how they're making money. Nobody is taking this thing and paying for the bandwidth and doing all of this out of the kindness of their heart, right? They're not sharing the Conor McGregor fight because they like you. They're doing it because they, generally speaking, are trying to get something on your device. The more people they can attract, the better. So yeah, using news. And this is why I said AI is really, really, really changing the game, because AI can predict what you like really, really well, right? So AI can say, oh, these are the types of things, Sean likes to click on. He likes fishing stuff, and he likes baseball stuff, and he likes politics, and he likes religious stuff. So let's put this thing where, some baseball player converts to God and goes fishing, and see if he clicks on it, right? And, okay, well, let's make another one. Oop, see if he clicks on it. Let's make another one. Oop. And the thing about cybersecurity, and I don't know if they say this in Joel's shop, but we say it all the time, when you play defense, when you're defending, you have to be correct 100% of the time. When you're on an attack, you only have to be right once, right? So if I'm trying to shoot you, you got to dodge every bullet, but I only got to hit you once, right? And if I'm a cyber attacker, I only need you to click on one link, right? If I know what I'm doing, if I know I'm attacking Sean, I just got to get you to click on one. I could send you 1,000 of them, right? So I just got to find that one. So it gets really, really tricky. Like I said, they're very sophisticated. Most people are not a target. What I mean by that is nobody's coming after Sean Carosella, right? Nobody's coming after, Brandon Paquette. Nobody's coming after, individual. There are people after individuals, but generally not us. So we get the shotgun approach. We get the, look at this weird baby born in the backwoods of Alabama kind of thing, and you click on it to see this freak, and now you got a virus, right? Because that's what they do. That is what they do. They make these crazy pictures. Can't believe this is real. Click on it, or whatever, right? Or look at this dog was lost, and they pull on the heartstrings. They got great ways of manipulating you to click on things because it's so easy to just go boop and go on. Yeah, so Brandon had mentioned talking about ad blocking and advertisements, and so ads are a particular, do you want to talk about it? Yeah, right here. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, so just as another distribution method for malware, like Phil was talking about, they only have to get you to click on it once. One method that is commonly seen is through advertisements. So I personally really like to encourage people to install ad blockers on their device, because that not only eliminates the issues that you have with trying to get malware on your device, but there's also a lot of other junk that comes through advertisements. You see advertisements for pornography, advertisements for all sorts of things. So you kind of hit two birds with one stone by installing an ad blocker on your device.
Yeah. And some of these,
If you guys want to talk to me about that later, I'd be happy to help you. Go ahead.
Yeah. And some of these antivirus software that I'm recommending here, some of them, maybe all of them, I don't know, but some of them have ad blocking built in, so you can enable ad blocking. So yeah, he's absolutely right. Ad blocking is a huge one, right? Because I didn't talk about that. If I have a virus, just make an ad for it. What's up?
I don't want to prolong things.
No, please.
I don't like paying for stuff in Taiwan.
Sure.
So I literally just don't click on nothing.
Yeah.
But let's just say an ad pops up, I'm like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So now I go, okay, the clapper. So on my own, I'm just using it as a,
Sure.
I'm going to look up the clapper.
Yep.
So how do I identify the clapper's true website versus an artificial?
Okay, right. So the short answer is, okay, that's a great question. And this would have been, so on the next one, we'll cover, on the next one, well, we'll cover it now, but I want to give you a more detailed one. This is a really great question because it's a really common attack. But there's a thing out there called certificates, right? And so websites have identification. A lot of us ignore it. We just get used to ignoring them. But websites will identify themselves. And if you want to see what a bad identification looks like, you can check my work on the QR codes out front because I have not updated our certificates yet. So if you go to the church website right now, you're going to get a bad certificate. And it's going to tell you this certificate's not right. So to your question, when you click on a link, let's say you Google search something and you want the clapper or whatever it is, you click on that top link, that top result that Google gives you, even though this answer is going to sound not great, if you don't get a warning, you're probably fine. If you don't get a warning, you're probably fine. Yet you do need to read the URL. If you look on there, it'll tell you, we're going to clapper.com. Well, how do you know that's clapper.com? When you click on it, there's some things happening in the background that if it didn't match, your browser in your phone will warn you and say, this isn't right, and it'll ask you, are you sure you want to go? When you go to the church website, right now the thing will pop up and say, hey, the certificate's out of date. Are you sure you want to go here? You click yes, and then you go to the church website. And it's because I haven't updated it yet. But what happens with hackers is they will put out, so here's a great one for me. This is a great, I wanted to buy a laptop. This was about 3 years ago. This is a good story because, man, I was this close to making a massive mistake. Wanted to buy a laptop, so I hopped on eBay. I'll buy a used laptop and see if I can find a good deal. And I found a good deal, like just a little too good to be true, but you want to believe it because I'm a tightwad, and I'm like, oh, that's a good deal. All right, well, let me see. So I send the person a message and they write back and we're talking. Okay, sure. So, well, where can I meet you? They said, well, I'm in Kentucky. I said, Kentucky? Wait a second. Why are you advertising in San Antonio? Oh, I just want to sell it quickly. I have an eBay page. You can just buy it from me off of eBay. I'm really just advertising here from my eBay store. Oh, yeah, let me go see your eBay page. So I go to their eBay page, and man, it looks great. Clicking around, they got reviews. I'm like, okay, great. So we go about it, and we go through this thing, and it starts to feel fishy. I'm like, what in the world is this? I go back, I'm looking at their history and their page, all the things they've sold, and everything lines up with their story, and it seems to fit. I'm like, man. And now I'm getting cold feet, and I'm not committing anymore. I'm starting to back out, and they can sense it, and they start getting a little aggressive, like, hey, are we going to do this or what? And so I'm sitting there thinking about it, like, what am I going to do? And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to ebay.com. I'm going to look up that user, and I'm going to get to their thing that way. And I want to find it from, as opposed to just clicking on the link they sent me to look. I'm going to go to eBay, and that's why I went to eBay, did a search for that user. The user was there. What they did was they made, user was there, but they didn't have any of that history. So that doesn't make any sense at all. So I go back and I look at their URL, the little link that you click on, and it was just a little bit different. And they had built a whole replica site of eBay. They made it look exactly like eBay. It felt like eBay, it looked like eBay, interacted like eBay. They used real people who have eBay accounts. They used their picture, it was the same picture. They were clearly different people. One of them was a real, the one on the eBay site was a real seller. They actually existed. They had different things for sale. They weren't talking to me. And so that's all to say, and when I looked at the certificate was good, because what a certificate tells you is this person is who they say they are. And what I didn't do was I didn't read the URL. I didn't look at it. And if I'd looked at it, it was like ebayx.com or something like that. It was just a little bit off, right? and off they go. So these things are incredibly, incredibly sophisticated, and yeah. To your point, how do you know you're on the right page? You have to trust, you have to look at certificates. At the same time, you have to trust the source. You have to look at where you got the link from. In that case, I got a link from a person that I was going to do this transaction with. They sent it to me. And that's when I started to question, because I looked at it and said, man, that's eBay. It was a long link right to their store page. It looked right, but it was just a little off. Sent me to a different server that they controlled, and it was very, very sophisticated. Very sophisticated. So, what's that? Yeah, well, yeah, kind of, but there's nobody you can turn them into. Right? The internet's the Wild West. I mean, I could tell eBay, but eBay is going to tell me, which is what they said. They had a whole section. If it's not on eBay.com, we can't control it. Right, if it's not ebay.com, we can't control it. And they're right. I mean, what can they do to somebody else's server? Nothing, nothing. So buyer beware, be careful. And yeah, so, and built in, like, for example, Bitdefender would have protected me from that one. Even, I didn't have Bitdefender, I didn't have any of them at that time. But actually, Bitdefender would have protected me. It would have said, hey, I think you're trying to go to eBay, but this isn't really eBay. Or this is something else. So I would consider it, you know. But if you're not, you know, if your phone is safe, you practice safe, you know, online practices, you can keep your phone and laptops safe without these, you know, pieces of software. But if you go rogue sometimes, if you click on things, and I would say install it, give yourself peace of mind, especially if you're going to manage your kids' devices. Because at least from my perspective, the last thing I want to do is give some hacker access to my son's device, right? Because that's even worse than giving them access to mine. So what we're going to do next is talk about how to manage your kids' devices. Mm-hmm. Yep. Uh-huh. Yes. That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's the right answer. That exactly. So for those who maybe didn't hear, what Dwayne was saying is you get emails in, and if you click, not fully click, but if you like basically hover on the graphic or whatever the link is, a little pop-up will come up, and it'll show you the full link, right? And so you can actually read it. Oh, you're talking about in the the header of the email receipt. Right, right. Right. It won't be USA.com. It'll be USAA. Right, right. But the email looks great, but the sender looks terrible. Right. Yeah. So okay, then that the other one is looking at the source of an email. But, right. Yeah, so right. Well, generally, most of your banks won't send you those kinds of emails to begin with, right? Most of their banks will say, hey, you have a new message, log into your bank, log into our app, and look at your messages, specifically for that reason. I don't know of any banks, I certainly don't know all the banks. Right, that's what you'll be getting, right, right. Well, you would just don't click, just open up your bank app. Go to your bank's website. That's how you protect yourself there, is always go to your bank's website. Don't click on, don't ever, I guess this is your point, don't ever click on anything to go to your bank's website, like in an email, just don't do it, right? If you get something from your bank, go to your bank's website, log in, and look at it that way. Just don't click on on your bank stuff. But I tend to feel the same way about any links. The only links I click on in my websites is when I have to do email verification, right? To log into something, they want you to verify your email. Log in, boop, boop, okay, we sent you an email. Go over here, click it, email verified. That's about the only time I click a link in emails at all anymore. There's just no reason to. If eBay sends me, I don't use eBay, and when I do, it's bad. But I don't use eBay. But if eBay sends me an email, I go to ebay.com, I log in, I look at there. If USA sends me a message, I go to my USA app, I log in on my USA app, and I read the message there. I don't click on anything anywhere anymore. Those things are terrible. Yeah, and to Brandon talking about ads, like ads in apps, it's really common for parents to let their kids play free versions of games on their phones. That's where those kinds of terrible ads come through. On those seedy backwoods games, you know, the front page of Google isn't giving you the worst of ads. They're giving you decent ads there, right? Those Amazon ads that pop on Google, those are almost certainly real. They're not gonna, you know, but when you get, you know, pop the balloon on the phone with ads across the bottom, those kinds of ads are the ones that are really terrible.
Hello, hello. I'll work. So phishing has been talked about a little bit here, and I just want to mention one more avenue, which is called smishing. It's text message phishing. So kind of same basic concept where there's going to be a link inside there, and that will take you to some avenue, malicious file being downloaded on your phone or take you to a bad site on purpose. But that is also another avenue attackers use. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
I have a few questions for you that, I don't know, this is just me, and maybe you guys, like I would say, and I would think a lot of people would say that I talk to, that I practice pretty good online discipline, right? I mean, is there anybody in here that would say, I do a horrible job of my online business, you know, like, oh, I click on every ad that pops up blindly, you know what I mean? Like, would you guys agree that you as adults, not on your kids' devices maybe, but as adults, you feel like you do a pretty good job of not clicking on things that are bad? I mean, or is that just me? I'm the only one that does a good job of it. You guys all do. Oh, you guys, right? Right.
That's the problem.
So that's my point.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my questions. Right. That's kind of my questions, I guess, is I feel like probably a lot of people I would talk to or ask, they would say, yeah, I mean, no, I don't have any of these paid things, but I do pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
I don't click on overly suspicious things. And so I guess my question to you is, like, what do you feel like would be these common things that people are doing? And we're not talking about 80-year-old people that, you know, we're talking about 30-year-old people that can feel like they identify some of those things. Like, for me, I'm just going to give you an example. I would imagine we read articles online, right? And yet I kind of feel like, in what I've seen is, whether it's through Facebook, because it's littered with them, or just online, I feel like I come across a lot of AI articles. And I would think that, in general, they always feel immediately suspicious. Almost all AI articles to me.
Yeah.
Not that there may not be legitimate ones, but like, if we are going through and we're man, I just went and read an article, or I just did this, and I think I'm doing trusted behaviors. Like, what are some of those trusted, what we would think we're doing a good job, where we're probably not? You know what I mean? Like the less suspicious things than getting a text message that says, click on me. You know what I mean?
Right. So I think this might sound counterintuitive based on everything I just said, trying to scare everybody, but I think most people probably actually do decent. But like I said before, you only have to get it wrong once, right? You only have to get it wrong once. So you can be decent at it and still get hit, right? Because you know, imagine crossing the street without looking both ways. That might work a lot. You know what I mean? Like, you'll probably be just fine, especially if you're crossing, like, you know, I don't know, some Cool Valley or something, right? Some just back residential street. But you start doing Highway 37 that way, bam, you're going to get hit. So to answer your question, what are some of those? I don't know. It's almost certainly going to be clicking on something. That's a big one. Installing an app is a big one. I mean, I think open Wi-Fi is a big one.
How about this? For me, like, let's say an ad, or not an, okay, we'll start with an ad. An ad on Facebook, right? Like
Yeah.
it just comes up in your feed. You guys get ads on your Facebook or suggested articles, suggested things like that.
Yep.
What are the chances that that leads to something bad or not?
Okay, so a very common one to get something on your phone is opening PDFs. That's a really common one. PDFs are deceptively invasive on all devices because of just the nature of how they work. So when you open a PDF, what are the odds that has something on it? I don't know, but it's kind of like a loaded gun. Like PDFs are like loaded, are like guns. A lot of that stuff's like guns. Like you want to know what you're dealing with. So like anything on, let's say, Facebook ads, I personally do not click on any PDFs. Download our PDF to build your own, nuclear energy thing or whatever it is. Don't open that, right? Just don't open it, right? If you want that, which, I've seen things where it's like, chicken coop plans or whatever, and design your own solar array, whatever. That sounds great. Let me go to Google, let me Google it, let me see who's advertising this doggone thing, see if I can find somebody that has one, and maybe I can go and open it up.
So on a source like Facebook, when they're using suggested things or ads or, how to build a chicken coop.
Yeah.
There's no verification that is any better because it's coming through Facebook.
That's right.
Than,
There's some, but not a lot. No,
no,
a
not
lot.
not enough to
No,
make it or not.
Yeah,
no.
I wouldn't. Facebook is not in my trusted list.
Okay.
No.
Would you consider AI articles of high risk in general, higher risk maybe than other places?
Yeah, probably, because like I said before, the name of the game is volume, right? So if my goal is to get my little piece of software on as many phones or laptops as possible, then sure, the quicker I can generate endpoints for you to go to, the quicker I can get you to come to it, the more I have, right? So, and it becomes nothing to say, oh, maybe just write a quick program that takes this little piece of software and gets, and builds 30 articles from it, and then it builds 30 PDFs, and it builds, or 300 or 3,000 or whatever it is.
Okay.
So,
And so that would lead me to how would I identify, let's say, an AI article as opposed to something genuine, and yeah, I guess that would be the biggie. How would they be identified? Can they be identified easily?
yeah, well, no. No, like I said, listen, and I hate to be this guy, but I'm going to be this guy. I do this for a living, and they got this close to taking $900 from me, right? Like I do, and I take my online presence very seriously, right? I've gotten I've had identity theft on us. Here we go. We're streaming, and right, but I've had identity theft in the last 10 years once, and I know how it happened. I left I made somebody angry in my apartment building. I left my front door unlocked, and I left my wallet by the front door on a little shelf that we had there. And I noticed identity theft. The very next day I went back and my wallet had been opened and that card was gone. I know who took it. That was personal. I had made them very angry. So that was retribution and they got me. But my point is I've been very careful online, and being careful online, like I said, somebody had my username and password, right? It was found when I told you Bitdefender found several cases of it. Some of them I know were real. Almost got, just what seemed completely, so what I'm getting at is, if you want confidence that flying solo, you can for sure avoid things flying solo, I can't give you that, right? I can't give you that. The reason this is such a huge industry is because it works, right? That's like asking, if I go to a carnival, how do I know I'm not getting scammed? Well, you're at a carnival, right? You're at a carnival, so you're gonna get got, right? Maybe the first one doesn't get you, but if you're there long enough, you eat enough funnel cake, somebody's gonna get you. That's why we have these pieces of software. That's why they hire guys like Joel to work at these organizations, because smart people who are very serious about what they're doing, they take their stuff online very seriously, they get got eventually, because you only have to make a mistake once, right? So you can be right 99% of the time, but that 1% is all you need, and they got you, so. Yeah.
So concept of risk is huge in cybersecurity.
Yep.
you can never, ever get rid of 100% risk.
That's right.
Never going to happen.
That's right.
So our job is to do what's basically called defense in depth.
That's right.
Is to provide as many safeguards in a row.
Yep.
It's like putting up just constant walls, just as many walls, and expecting that wave to finally hit one and just stop.
That's right.
That is our job. So
Yeah.
that's the best way that we can give these safeguards to you so that you can block that next
Yeah.
wave.
That's right. Defense in depth was the right answer. I wish that's right. So let me translate that to what he's really trying to say. If you can afford it, install that software, right? Because you should be acting that way even with the software. Like putting on your seatbelt doesn't mean you drive the wrong way on the highway, right? It means you drive safely and you got your seatbelt on, right? So you want to do both. So he's right. That's defense in depth. That's huge. That's huge.
So the idea for me, who thinks
Here's one.
I do a good job.
I can answer your question directly. So here's a good one. Use the same password on all your accounts.
Are you asking me if I
No,
do?
because you should not be. That is one that everybody does, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does that. Or use the same password on more than one account. I got a bank account. I got Facebook. I got my Craigslist account. I got my whatever.
Right.
I got 40 accounts, more than that, and 2/3 of them have the same. I'm not saying this is true for me, but
Right.
this is super common. People use the same password for everything. Yeah, sure, right? Home Wi-Fi, this, that, the other. Okay, here's the problem. If I get something on your phone, and I now have your phone, I now have your password. I don't just have your password for Bank of America. I have your password for all your banks, for all your social media, for all of everything, right? So that is a huge one that people don't recognize is by putting, another one is weak passwords. And I really should have had do you all know how to make strong passwords? Okay, that is, I don't know, but they probably enjoyed that better. So let's cover how to make strong passwords. So what Mary is saying is capital letter, lowercase letter, because this is another one. It's using the same password on multiple devices or multiple accounts, and having a weak password or having a weak password. So the reason people put the same password on multiple accounts is they want to remember it. So we need a good way to make a strong password that we can remember, right? Do you know where I'm going, Joel? Or do you know? Passphrase. That's right. You think of phrases, right? So I don't want to use any. I have several phrases that I use for a variety of passwords, but you remember a phrase. It could be a Bible verse, could be something, but we're going to come up with a phrase that you might remember. So for example, my son Leo's birthday is January 15th of 2025. Obviously, that's not his birthday, but whatever. So that's the phrase I want to use. My son Leo's birthday is January 20th, 2025. All right. So I can turn that into a password by saying capital M, lowercase l, or lowercase s for son, capital L for Leo, on and on and on. I got capital letters, I got lowercase letters, I got numbers, and then I can throw an exclamation point on the end of it. So now I know, okay, great. For this website, the phrase I can remember is my son Leo's birthday is January 20th, 2025. That's easy to remember. If I used January 20, 2025, that'd be guessed easily. It's an easy password to guess. But capital M, lowercase s, capital L, lowercase b, lowercase I, on and on. This what appears to be a random set of letters and numbers and special characters means nothing to a machine, means nothing to AI. They're random in their mind. But it makes it easy to remember. It's an easy way to come up with good, strong passwords. You can maybe even incorporate the website's name for it. So maybe you have something along the lines of, this is my Facebook login from 2024. And my password, and this is my password, and there's your phrase. This is my Twitter login, 2024. This is my phrase. This is my bank's login for 2024. This is my phrase. Whatever phrase you can remember, you create a system that you can change it. That way, if somebody gets one, they don't get them all. All right. So that's one thing that I think people who otherwise do a good job maybe don't get that one right. And so when you get hit hard. Does that make sense? Because another part of defense in depth is when you do get hit, isolate the problem, right? So better to get hit in the leg than get hit in the heart, right? So if somebody gets your password, It's better they get one than all of them. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. So it's safe to say that A, saving all my passwords in my phone aren't a good idea.
Probably not.
And B, that if I assume that I am doing enough, I'm not.
I would say that's right. I'd say that's probably true. I'd say that's
Because-
probably true. And even a person that does everything right can still be had.
Yeah,
Right? That's how sophisticated
it's
these
not
guys are.
worth. It's just not worth the risk
I don't think so.
when you're talking about $15 a year, compared to I, as a nobody that lives in San Antonio, am doing a better job than a building full of people who do it for a
Professional
living.
actors, right? I tend to think so. I
Yeah.
mean, there are safeguards you can take, and then there's other things. Is you can periodically clear out your phone, right? So if you don't want to spend the money, fine, factory reset your phone every couple months, right? That way, if they get you, they don't have you for long. Change your passwords, So in our world, we're used to a world where you change all of your passwords every 30 days.
Yeah.
I want you to consider that, right? How many passwords do you have? However many you have, I promise you, the three of us have like a lot more than that. And you got to change those every 30 to 40 days, right? Why? Because if it's the principle that Joel was talking about, defense in depth. If they get something, the idea is to limit it in scope, right? So if they get my password, it's only good for 30 days, then I got to change it. And if they get my password, it's only good for 30 days, and it's only good on this one website.
That makes sense. That answers my questions, and it's just fair to say that, especially if you're going to be managing your kid's device,
I think you want to, yes.
you just don't want to be at risk of getting got.
I think
and
so.
you will, in due time, get got.
That's right.
If you're the average Joe.
Even if you're not the average Joe, I think everybody gets it at some point. So I think, great. So this was all leading to the reason to manage your device and keep it clean is because we want to manage your kids' devices, right? And like I said, if the wrong piece of malware gets on your phone, they have control not just over your banks, but they have your cameras, they have your microphones, right? This is really bad. I mean, that's really, really bad. I don't think people appreciate just how terrible that is. And for most people, the camera part of it, whatever, like they probably don't care. But when it comes to kids, right? Now kids, we know the internet is terrible for kids. The internet is a dark place, and what they like to do to kids, and I say they, talking about the internet, is terrible, right? And they will use your kid's camera to take pictures of them when they're not looking, to take video of them when they don't know what's being done, or when the kid thinks that things are private and they're taking photos of themselves just because they're kids and kids do ridiculous things, right? So you could be exposing your kids to a lot, right? So what I would recommend is install one of these apps, even if you don't want to pay for it, right? Even if you don't want to pay for it, I'd say install it and let it run its scan. Let it try to sell you, right? Let it do what it does because all of them will give you a free trial for, I don't know, usually a couple weeks, maybe a month. Run it. Just run the free trial. Let's see how it runs. Let it scan your phone and let it tell you what the problems are, all right? And then let it fix them. And then if you really don't want to buy it, fine. Then these are risks that you have to make the trade-off for. A year for a device. That's right. And then some of these that we're going to talk about later, you could do 10 devices for like $100 and something a year. So it comes out to even a little bit less than that, or it comes out to even less than that if you do 10 devices. So I think it's reasonable. I think it's like buying a seatbelt for your car or something along those lines. Like, it's not $15 a month, it's $15 a year, right? So, I mean, I spend more than that. I probably drop more than that and change in my car, right? So, I think it's worth it. That's my take. So, after this, what we want to talk about is how to keep the social media off of your kids' phones. We're going to talk about some apps to do that. The idea is clean your phone first if you can. That's really important. And do your best to keep it clean, and then you can manage your family's devices from your phone. And when you do that, you can set limits, you can do a lot of things, and we're going to break some of those down. We'll take a little break, get some coffee, reset, come back, and the next one's not going to be particularly long. We're going to talk about some free software, which Sean will like. It's free. And it's just literally free. And then we're going to talk about some premium paid ones that you can use. And then we're going to open ourselves up if you want to stand these things up and try to get them running today. We'll help you do that. If you just want to ask more questions, we're happy to field those questions as well. All these questions are important because we want to do this again, and hearing you ask questions helps us build content for the next one, all right? But my heart was on social media because I see a lot of good parents with good kids with the best of intentions give their kids social media thinking, I'm watching them, they're talking to kids from church, they're doing otherwise wholesome things. I don't think people know that even that is really, really, really harmful. It just makes them feel terrible. So I would say keep kids off of social media. I want to show you how to do that, or at least limit their time, and I want to show you how to do that as well. That way you can know for a fact. Like, how great would it be to say, listen, I've told you twice to get in here for dinner, the phone's off. I can just turn off the phone right here, and you can't touch it till I turn it back on. And I'll tell you, I've had to do it once, and it works like a champ. It's great. It's great, right? It's off, and you're not getting back in until I turn it back on. So, well, we'll have to turn off the microphone. Be back in a few minutes.
When night is falling, when fear is calming, still you're calling me. Yeah, when faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In every season, you keep repeating promises to me. Whoa, and there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. And my mind says I'm not good enough. God, you're enough for me. Hey, I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Hey, your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In my soul. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. Come on, come on. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Hey, your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out, breaking out. Hey, come on. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. When night is falling, when fear is calming, still you're calling me. Yeah, when faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In every season, you keep repeating promises to me. Whoa, and there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. And my mind says I'm not good enough. God, you're enough for me. Hey, I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Hey, your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. Soul, in my soul. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. Come on, come on. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Hey, your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out, breaking out. Hey, come on. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. It won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In my soul. When night is falling, when fear is calming, still you're calling me. Yeah, when faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let promises to me. Whoa, and there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. And my mind says I'm not good enough. God, you're enough for me. Hey, I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Hey, your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. Soul, in my soul. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. Come on, come on. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Hey, your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out, breaking out. Hey, come on. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. It won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In my When night is falling, when fear is calming, still you're calling me. Yeah, when faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In every season, you keep repeating promises to me. Whoa, and there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. And my mind says I'm not good enough. God, you're enough for me. Hey, I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. Come on, come on. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out, breaking out. Hey, come on. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. Won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. When night is falling, when fear is calming, still you're calling me. Yeah, when faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In every season, you keep repeating promises to me. Whoa, and there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. And my mind says I'm not good enough. God, you're enough for me. Hey, I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is so day is calming, still you're calling me. Yeah, when faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is
Gonna get started in just another minute or so. All right. All right, so we're going to move on to talking about monitoring your kids' devices. And in conversations, it sounds like several people are already doing it and doing it well, so that's fantastic. Hopefully there'll be some things in here that you pick up. If not, people might have questions for you. So there's, as we all know, you have Android, you have Apple. Those are kind of the big bifurcation in the phone world. Each one's a little bit different. Each one offers a free way to manage your kids' devices, right? So that's the second thing I want you to take away from this big talk. The first one was how dangerous social media is, even if they're not doing any of the terrible things on it. It makes them feel awful, right? So if they're going to use it, restrict them significantly. I would say it's probably better for them not to have it at all as long as possible, right? So just if you can keep it out of their hands, all the better. So let's talk about how we do those things. In Android, there's an app called Family Link. So it's called Google Family Link. There's a link to it in that page that you link to up above. In here, you can do things like set bedtimes. So at 8 o'clock at night, their device just shuts off and they can't open it, full stop. Now, I want to say something. They can always receive phone calls and they can always call emergency. So 911, I think you can actually even set numbers that they can always call mom, they can always call dad, but they can always receive calls. So even if you have a screen time set, if you have it locked and you need to call them, the phone will ring, they'll be able to answer it, okay? So when I say a phone is locked, you can still call them. So you can set bedtime, you can set daily limits. You can say, you know what, I don't mind what time you use your phone, but you're only allowed to use it for 2 hours on this day. You know, so weekdays, you can use it for an hour. Use it in the car, use it when you get home, use it before bed, I don't care, but you got it for an hour today. Saturdays, you get it for 3 hours. But once that 3 hours is up, it's up. That's called daily limits. You can set daily limits, you can set bedtime. You can enable and disable specific apps. This is my favorite feature. This is really the best one in my opinion, is to say, these are the apps you're allowed to have installed, full stop. They will not, at least with Google Family Link, they just can't install anything until it gets approved on your phone. So Leo can hop on his little device that, actually if I was thinking I would have brought it to show some of you, but I didn't. But he doesn't really use it that much, but he uses it some. He can go find an app, he wants a new game, he clicks on it, it won't install. A message will pop up that says, go ask your parents. And on my phone, I'll get a little bing, Leo wants to install an app. And I'll click on it, it'll show me the app he wants to install, and when he did it, and this, that, and the other, and I can right from my phone decide, yes, he can have it, no, he can't, and off we go. I like that feature because typically, if you can keep them out of social media, that mitigates a lot of problems. You can pick specific apps. You can say, you know what, I want you to be able to log into your school and look at your homework, but I don't want you to play in that stupid game anymore. So the game is off, the school is on. Or you can keep your phone on you so you can text us, but I don't want you on any of these apps all day, right? You only get this app for 30 minutes a day, and that app you can have for 2 hours a day. So you have a lot of control on what your kids do on their phones. So you can also block access to very specific websites. So you can say you're allowed to go to, so for example, on Leo's phone, that's not his phone, but on his phone, he can open up a web browser and he can go to pbskids.org or whatever it is. It's the official PBS website. And they have games on there that you can play in the web browser that he likes. That's the only website he can go to. So he can go to the PBS little web interface there and he can play some games where you do color pages and stuff. But he can't go to any other website. He can't, if he tries to do a Google search, blocked. If he tries to go anywhere, just blocked. So you can actually see on there which apps they're using. So let's say you're not sure what your children's device or phone life is like. You don't know what they do. You just want to know. You can say, okay, well, let's install this. Let's get your phone connected to it or get your device connected to it and then just watch them and you can see what they're actually doing. You can say, you know what, I think you spend too much time on that game or too much time on that app. So we're going to limit that. We're going to make adjustments. All right, you can lock the device remotely. It's one of my other favorite features, right? So they're playing a game or watching a video, whatever you've let them do. It's like, oh, hey, put that down and come help me out or come do whatever. Hold on. Hey, y'all know the hold on, right? Hold on means I'm not coming at all. And come over here, locked. Dad, yeah, well, come on, let's do this, and maybe we'll unlock it now, right? But so I like the idea you can just lock it from anywhere. You can find out where they are. You get location data. So if you want to know where your kids are, boop, there you go. You can get right where they are, right? This is a very extreme amount of control you have over your kid's device, which is why I highly recommend you clean your devices first, right? I highly recommend you clean your devices first. All right, so that's Google Family Link. There's a link to it. You can go install it. If you install it, it'll walk you through building kids accounts and that kind of thing. On iPhone and MacBooks, Apple, I think, Apple just beats Google here, no questions about it. And that's because of the way they handle accounts. You see, if you have a Windows laptop, like this is a Windows laptop, right? So the way Windows works is I have an account on my laptop and then I get in there and then I can log into Google, right? Or whatever I want. Well, that's not how Mac works. And that's not how your iPhone works. Y'all have an Apple ID, right? All you Apple people, y'all got Apple IDs, right? Well, you use that Apple ID to log into your phone and also into your laptops, right? And that's a really good thing for managing your kids, though there's a limit there. We're going to talk about it. Apple just got Google beat. The free version of managing your kids' devices in Apple is just better than Google's, and that's because it goes across. In Apple, you're managing your child's account. So I don't want my kid going to, the only website I want my Leo going to, for example, is PBS Kids. He can go there. No matter what device he logs into, anywhere he goes, he's only allowed to go to PBS Kids, right? I love that. I love that. Same thing, all the same features, except it's associated with the account. App limits, screen time limits, that kind of thing. I think Apple's just better. The downside is Apple is generally more expensive. So it's kind of a pricier world to get into, but I think it's just better. And, but it has all the same features. Screen time limits, individual app limits. I don't want my kids on, TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is. I could just say, this account isn't allowed to run these apps, install these apps, and they won't install. It works very, very well. Now, those are the free ones. There's 2 premium softwares that I have listed here. There's, I can't say it, Custodio, thank you, Custodio and OurPact. Now, Custodio, in my opinion, is the better of the 2, but OurPact is really, really good. So here's the limits with Google and Android parent monitoring. The only reason they do it is because our government makes them. Whoops, it's because our government makes them. It's the only reason they do it. It's because our government makes them. They didn't really want to. And I think Google does a bad job of advertising how good Google Family Link is. I think they do a bad job of teaching people how to use it, because I think they don't care if you use it. I think they just, I don't think they particularly want you to use that feature. I think Apple does a better job of it, but I think Apple does a better job basically because they are a luxury company. I mean, their products are luxury products, and they're going to give you the white glove treatment because that's who they are. One problem with both of them, though, is once kids hit about 13, 14, or 15, depending on what country you live in, you can't control as much of your children's account as you could before, right? So in the eyes of Google and in the eyes of Apple, your kids are nice young adults now, and you're not allowed to read their emails, you're not allowed to look at their SMS messages, that kind of a thing. And I think that's terrible. The market, being what the market is, has responded, and there's some premium pieces of software that does not fall to that, right? So you can install a Custodio or OurPact, and they're going to do all the same things. They're going to do them better, actually. They're going to do them better than Google or Apple Parental Control, and they're going to last longer than, they last as long as you want them to, right? They turn off when you turn them off, right? So Custodio is about $100 per year to manage 10 devices. So with that, you can manage, you get their location, you can read messages, you can look at their apps, screen time, bedtime, all of it, right? All of it. So if your kid has a phone, a laptop, a desktop, and an iPad, Custodio would manage all of them, and you can manage all of them from Custodio, all right? Same is true with OurPact. Well, actually, OurPact, I take that back. OurPact will not do desktops and laptops. OurPact will only do phones and tablets. Custodio will even do Kindle. So if your kids have an ebook reader, do kids use ebook readers? Like, I don't think they do. But if they did, you can control what they see on there. All right. So those are the premium ones. So we talked about 4 pieces of software. If you're an Android family, you have Google Family Link. That works really well. But there's limitations as they get older, as they hit the upper teen years, Google starts giving them freedoms.
Could you reset birth dates?
So you can. So yeah. So here's the problem with that. Well, with Google you cannot. I think with Apple you can. But, yeah. So there's a couple of problems with that. Well, at least I think so. One of the things that I like about, like, for example, with Leo, I had to make him a Google account, and I use his legitimate birthday, which means that account is good for him, right? It is a real account that he can use well into as long as he wants. That could be his email account. And he not be like me with like 80 email accounts, right? You can have one and manage it correctly, hopefully. And he has this one account. Now with Google, to change a birth date, actually have to delete the account, and then they lock that email address. You can't have it again. I think it's 45 days. then you can go back in there and make it again with the same email address and change the birthday. So for Google, it is very invasive. Apple, it's a lot more easy, and if it was that, it's super tempting to just be like, well, you're 8 again, buddy. Sorry, too bad for you. And right. So that's certainly an option. Right. Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So I think Apple is just on that in that world. I think they're just better. But they do. If you don't catch it, right? Did it even tell you? Did Apple even tell you that now he can control his own websites and stuff? Or
I remember, but at the time we were new to Apple. We had been Droid the whole time.
sure.
And so initially he was going to his sister's because she had Apple and they just gave him a phone he could use just in Wi-Fi.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't actually connected. And so he was linked to her family account and she was the one who was.
Right.
Once we switched over and all that, like we were still getting familiar with it. So I just didn't really pay attention.
Sure.
Or see it. They did, I didn't notice.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like Google, you have to get into the fine print. And I saw this with Google. When you manage your kid's account in Google Family Link, you can read their emails and that kind of thing. Or you can see their account. You can log in with your own account. But once they hit a certain age, Google doesn't allow that anymore. All right, and so I did not love that. But they made that decision, and that's the way, I didn't make the world, I just got to live in it. So, I don't agree, but there's options out there for those of us who need that level of control. And one in Apple, you can roll the date back. So, and then you have some other software you can get, Custodio and RPAC. There's others as well. Those two seem to be very good. And they work really well. Another one is Bark. And actually, I'm surprised I didn't link it. Did anybody watch the video that Pastor Charlie texted out? Did anybody watch that video? I know you did. Yeah. That was alarming, wasn't it? It's very alarming. And I thought about sharing it today. And the reason I didn't is because I wanted to focus on a different aspect. So I'm going to summarize this video that we shared, that Charlie shared. And the goal is to really put fear into parents. It's easy to not be fearful of the internet. And I don't think you should be fearful, but I think we should be very cautious. So here's what the video was made by a company named Bark. Bark is an app for managing kids' devices, just like Custodio and RPAC. And so this is what Bark did. Bark took one of their executives and made her up and took pictures and made her look like she was 15. And then she went out and started social media accounts as a 15-year-old girl. And they made a whole online persona of this 15-year-old girl. And what they did was they made it look, they did a very good job, and they explained it in the video. They made it look like her birthday, like she just turned 15, and now she gets her social media accounts. Her parents let her have it. And what they wanted to do was run a test. How long does it take for a reasonable, well-behaved young woman on social media to be approached by a predator? And the answer was about 2 hours. About 2 hours, and all the text started coming in, all the messages started coming in, and it was so alarming to this company. This is what they do. It was so alarming to them that they called the police. And the police came in, and they started chasing down predators immediately. It turns out, the police does this, right? They go out there looking for predators. And so Bark, as a company, said, well, 15, there's people who might excuse, adults for trying to talk to a 15-year-old because they're so old to the age of consent. So let's try it again, but let's do 11. And so they took this woman again, and using photo manipulation with their internal marketing team and all that, they explained it in the video, they make her look 11, and they do a very good job of it. They make it very convincing. She looks 11 with the way they did her pictures, and so she went and started social media accounts at 11. And when you know how long it took for a predator to approach her? Did you watch it? It was 2 minutes. It was 2 minutes. 2 minutes for the 11-year-old girl to get approached by a predator. What do these predators want? You know what they want. You know exactly what they want, and they're going to tell your kids anything and everything to get it, right? So Bark What they want you to do is they want you to manage your kids' online presence. I don't want them to have one at all, right? Bark is not trying to keep social media. That video did not put the fear of social media in there. I think what that video did, and it's right, the video's right, but here's what here's was my takeaway. If I look at my kid's phone and I see that they're not talking to strange people, then it's safe. I don't agree with that. I think social media, even without the predators, is dangerous. And that's what I wanted to put out there today. So I didn't play the video because the message I want is social media is bad, even without the predators. But with the predators, it is absolutely horrifying. So in this video, he goes on. They decide, in working with the police, they start chasing down predators down a variety of paths. And they find this one guy, and with the police's permission, they set up a sting operation. This guy wanted to meet her, and she told him that her and her family were going to New York for a day, and that they could meet. And so Bark and the law enforcement set up a hidden camera in this hotel lobby, and they had everything set up just so this man would meet her there, and they'd have a conversation. They filmed the whole thing, and it is chilling. This was a 30-something-year-old man talking to what he thought was a new 15-year-old girl, right? And I mean, it's terrible. It is just terrible. And there's, I don't know. Like I said, the only reason we didn't play it, the only reason I didn't play it, was because I think it makes us concerned about the second head. It's like there's two big headlights that are going to run your kids over. And the second one is the predators. And so everybody tries to dodge the predator, but then they get hit by just regular old decent social media, things that we consider okay. They're not okay. Good social media without predators is still going to make your kids feel terrible. It's going to give them, or it can give them real mental health issues, right? Not every kid who committed suicide, of that massive suicide spike, they weren't all attacked by predators. It wasn't the predators alone that did it. It was, they felt terrible, they didn't get to mature, they don't understand online social media, and there's good science to believe it's not even good for us as adults. How many people, and Chris was talking about this in one of our breaks, how many times have you sat there and scrolled to social media for hours, and then you just feel drained and exhausted? It's like, man, I didn't do anything. I just sat here. And now these days we call that just being lazy. That's like, know what it is? Social media is a drug. It's a drug unlike the world's ever seen before. But it's a real drug. We have the brain scans to prove it. Your brains respond to social media the same way it does to alcohol, to cigarettes, to other drugs like marijuana and opioids. It's a drug, and it's not a good drug, just like any of the other ones. We should avoid it to the best of our ability. And if you're going to smoke cigarettes, I think it's a terrible idea. If you're going to drink alcohol, I think that's a terrible idea. There probably is a responsible way to use it, right? But in my world, that's never with a 12-year-old, right? That's just my take. So that's why we didn't show the video, but predators are out there, and Bark is a premium product that will help you manage your kids' devices as well. It's called Bark, B-A-R-K, Bark. They're very, very good as well. I'm going to go back and modify that, so I'm going to put a link in there. I should have put them in there. They're really, really great. And but they'll do all the same sort of things. I'll let you monitor your kids' messages to see if they are doing things they shouldn't be doing, get their location, turn their phone off, give them screen time, all those things. So what I hope the takeaway of today is number one, keep your kids off social media. Number two, I hope you understand how to clean your phone if you choose to go that route. And number three, how to manage your kids' devices so you can keep that stuff off, right? How do you keep those things off? Well, there's apps there to help you. If you don't know how to use them, there's people here that are going to help you do that, all right? So we're going to close it out here. We're going to stay open and available to answer any questions you got. You have a question? Yeah.
Depending on the plan that you get, because some of them have different plans, you get like a live, the moment they see the screenshot, you get the screenshot. You can get
Yeah.
just a lot of things like that, and I thought that was really nice to have and get live
Yes.
information.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And also, there was another thing that you mentioned about giving our kids a technology contract.
Oh, okay.
So it gives a link to the technology contract, and they just have to initial and sign, just like with their, sign any other contract. And it tells them the responsibilities that you expect from them with having a phone or being able to use a tablet or something.
Sure.
And I thought that was
What's the name of that book? What was the name of the book? Boy Mom. So the name of the book was Boy Mom, What Your Son Needs From You the Most, by Monica Swanson. And that has a lot of the same resources we talked about here, plus some others that give you some other features that I hadn't heard about.
she has a link there to the technology contract also. And I think also just more importantly, from us monitoring, is to have open communication
Yep.
with our kids, to talk to them about also the dangers and what we expect from them when they're using internet or a phone or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that they can feel open to talk to us also whenever they do come across something that they shouldn't, or
Yep.
they're tempted or anything, so they can feel free to.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks. I think, I think one of the greatest, so I think there's a few things that you hit on. I think one of them, the technology contract, I like that a lot because I think the relationship that we teach to kids, that kids have with technology is going to be incredibly important. You think technology is powerful now? Wait 20 years, right? It is literally going to be unthinkable. I lived through it, and a lot of people here lived through, like, we lived in the 80s, right? When, like, not all my friends had phones in their house. Like, you want to know somebody was home, you rode your bike over there, you knocked on the door and nobody answered. Right? Then you go to the next friend's house, you knock on their door, then you get to your last friend's house and all their bikes are there. That's how you knew where people were hanging out. That's what you did, right? And not everybody had phones. We went through periods where we didn't have a phone. It's just the way it was. Now, people don't interact as much anymore. And our relationship to that technology is really important. So when it comes to Leo, when it comes to anything with a screen, what I tell him is, no, that's poison, dude. Too much is too much, right? So sometimes I'll just take the phone away from him, or I'd say the phone. He doesn't. For him, it's the Switch. He likes the Nintendo Switch. He likes to play video games, and video games don't have the same level of impact on kids that social media is particularly bad. Video games really aren't that bad. Again, too much is too much. So I'll let him play games, but I'll take it from him randomly. For him, it seems random. For me, I know when it is. When I look over there and I think, man, you're enjoying that just a little too much. Like, I don't like you liking games that much, right? That's too much, right? So I'll give him a chance. Hey, bud, come over here. I want to talk to you. If he puts it down and comes and talks, okay, well, then that means he can put it down. I want you to learn how to be able to put it down even when you're loving it. You need to put it down. If you can't put it down, I'm going to take it from you. That's a relationship I want him to have. I want him to be able to put it down on demand and then walk away from it and then come back and use it, because the technology is not going away. You can't hide your kids from it. They have to learn how to use it. So that's why I like a lot of what you were saying there. Right. That's right.
So like us personally, we make our kids earn time
Yes.
on any kind of, you just watch TV.
Yes.
They love the Nintendo, so they have to earn it. They have to do something, even on the weekends.
Yep.
We give them free, like, school fees, whatever.
You're right.
We always ask them, what have you done to earn it?
That's right.
And we make them spend time outside also.
Sure.
They have to do something physical in order to earn time to be sitting down
Doing
doing
nothing. That's right. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's exactly right. So I think, and so like with Leo, I can tell you what he's enjoying more is he likes the game when we're gonna drive. He doesn't really care to just sit in the back seat while we're gonna drive 30 or 40 minutes. So if I give him a choice, you could play it now, but you don't get it in the car, or you can, go do something else, go play in your room with your toys, or go play with the dogs in the back, whatever. And then when we go to church, you can play it on the way. 9 times out of 10, he's like, okay, well, I'll wait, because he'd rather play it in the back. So I think anything that forces them to exercise the muscle of saying no, right? To say no to it. Okay, well, I'll get some later, I'll earn it, whatever. I think that relationship is just infinitely important. I think that's where it's at, because this stuff's only going to get more tempting. They're going to get better at sucking people in, and they're coming for our kids, and they're not slowing down. This is not slowing down. This is going to get more sophisticated. It's going to get faster. It's going to get better, and it's going to try to suck us into it as well. Who remembers? I'm sorry, but who remembers the 2016 presidential election with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? Like, was that fun? like that wasn't fun at all, right? That was terrible. And most of the terribleness was online. It was right here on this phone, right? Or the 2020 presidential election. Was that fun? Thumbs down, right? That was awful. It was awful. I don't care what side of the aisle you were on. It doesn't matter. There was so much garbage and arguing going on online. It was terrible. And you know what? We got one coming up. Right? And it's not going to get easier. They're not going to all of a sudden be sane. That's not going to happen. If God doesn't intervene directly and just calm everybody down, it's just going to keep getting worse. So what I'm really trying to drive home is our relationship with these devices is really important, not just for our kids, but for us. Because like when we started off, your kids feed off of you. So if I'm looking at this thing and I'm getting juiced up over some whatever, right? Leo sees that, right? And he feeds off that. Your kids see that, and if you're on social media for 3 hours a day, they see that, right? If you're playing the video game for 3 hours a day, they see that. So one of the things I tell myself is Leo's going to do what you do, not what you say. So that is how I get myself up when I just want to sit around, right? And like, okay, I got to go do something. I can't sit here and watch television or, scroll on social media. I got to get up and go do things because that's, I got to do that because I don't want him to see me doing it. And so, yeah, I think that's all correct. Anybody have anything before we start getting into your devices and maybe setting some of this stuff up? So y'all gave some excellent feedback. We already have a lot of content for the next one. The next one is not going to be soon. It'll probably be June, July-ish. It'll be in the summer. I'm not sure exactly when, but we have an idea. And thank you. Thank you for coming, and we want to do it again. Hopefully they'll get better as we go forward, as we know what y'all are looking for. But I know what I want to focus on next time is how to lock down your home networks, right? How to keep your home network safe so you or your kids just can't go somewhere terrible. One of these ads comes in and wants to redirect you to something to install some nonsense. You can block it right there on your home network, right? We can do that. We just have to teach you how to do it. So, all right. So if you have questions, Brandon, Joel, and I are here to answer your questions. So thank you for coming. Yep.